Panning is one of the most basic and fundamental aspects of mixing. Along with balancing the levels of the various tracks, it's one of the first things many engineers do when they sit down to mix, to arrange the elements of the production between the speakers in a way that'll not only create a virtual soundstage, but also enhance the clarity and detail of the mix by providing each part with its own place in that soundstage. But there's more to it than just positioning the tracks between left and right. Modern imaging tools can also contribute extra width and depth, which hopefully will help draw the listener into the virtual space with the performers and the music. And the creative application of panning and imaging-based effects can lend a little motion to an otherwise static array of tracks, enhancing certain production elements and providing additional ear candy. But even while basic panning may seem fairly straightforward, there are still a number of ways that a mixer can slip up, and when manipulating the audio with imaging processing, there are even a few more potential gotchas that an unwary engineer could possibly stumble upon. So it's not surprising that mixers working toward a greater mastery of this key aspect of production will likely make a few mistakes along the way. Specific choices or habits they might fall into that might not be the most effective ways to use these tools. This series of courses, 10 mistakes or 10 don'ts of various production activities, focuses on some of those things. Common, and sometimes less common, uses and applications that it would probably be best to avoid. This course, of course, covers 10 things to watch out for when it comes to panning and imaging. It presents a series of suggested don'ts, mistakes, or just less effective practices, along with suggestions for alternative approaches that might enhance the use of these elements. The course assumes a basic familiarity with panning, but just to be thorough, I'll do a very brief review of the basic technical concepts before jumping into the 10 don'ts themselves. In a true stereo recording made with 2 mics, the position of the various pieces of the ensemble is determined by 2 things: level and time. Our stereo hearing systems, our 2 ears and brain, process the sound waves by subconsciously comparing what's different about the signal arriving at our 2 ears. When a sound that originates in front of a listener is louder in one ear, that's interpreted to mean that the signal is positioned closer to that side, to the left or right. This difference in level, or amplitude, is one of the ways we localize sounds. But our brain also notices which ear hears the sound first. The first arrival, even though it's usually only a matter of milliseconds, is the other subconscious clue as to the location of that sound source. When a pair of stereo mics is used in a natural sound field, both these aspects are captured, and when the recording is played back over properly positioned stereo speakers, our ears and brain perceive a 3-dimensional sound field, at least within the space between the speakers. But with multi-mic'd, multi-tracked recordings, close miking, often with single mics recording a mono signal for many instruments, doesn't preserve those natural positioning clues, so we turn to panning to artificially create a stereo image between the speakers out of these separate recorded tracks. The basic pan controls you find on every channel of a mixer provide the means to do this. But these pan pots, panoramic potentiometers for the terminal techies out there, only employ one of the 2 psychoacoustic components that our ears and brain use for localization with actual 3-dimensional sound sources. Pan pots are simple amplitude panners. Each channel of a mixer is routed to both sides of the stereo master bus, and each channel's pan knob is wired, physically or virtually, to control both sides of the channel simultaneously. As you turn the panner on a track to one side, it turns up the level feeding that side of the main stereo bus, while turning down the level feeding the other side. The sound emerges from the 2 speakers, and the listener, subconsciously perceiving that it's louder in one ear, localizes the sound to a point somewhere between the speakers. If the panner is set to a point halfway between left and center, then that's where the sound seems to be located. If it's set to the center, then the level is equal in both speakers, and the sound is localized to a point midway between them, the phantom center image of stereo reproduction. But even though the apparent location of these pan sounds is an illusion, there are still real psychoacoustic benefits from locating different elements of a mix to different apparent locations between left and right. The mix may enjoy greater clarity and detail, which I'll go over in one of the videos. Of course, there are also tools that employ small delays to bring in the other psychoacoustic aspect of our hearing's localization apparatus. Many imaging tools involve not just amplitude differences, but timing as well. These tools can sometimes contribute to a greater sense of depth, and can often be used to create a wider stereo signal from a mono source, although, as you'll see, there are potential pitfalls to watch out for when generating a stereo effect. I'll be covering these issues and concerns as I look at the various potential mistakes and don'ts that are likely to come up when using panning tools and imaging techniques in mixing. So, with that brief rundown out of the way, let's start taking a look at some of those things to watch out for when it comes to panning and imaging.